1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. If you wouldn't mind grabbing your seats, we're going to get started. Welcome, friends, to the Local Government Waste Management Symposium, or the tagline, Exposing the Sexy in Waste Management. Fun. My name's Amy Hetherington. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Larrakia land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We will have a welcome to country a little bit later on in the program, just a bit of timing issues, so we will have a proper welcome to country very, very soon. But for those of you that have travelled to Darwin, welcome. I hope that you're enjoying the build-up and the sweatiness of being here. Please make sure that you drink lots of water and that you enjoy your time here. 3 days of Darwin goodness, or a little bit longer for some of you. I hope you really enjoy it. So my name's Amy. I am very, very lucky and happy to be here for the next 3 days, learning about waste management from all of you and also sharing in this wonderful discussion. I know nothing about waste management, so I'm very much looking forward to leaving here a smarter, wiser human being. And I'm also looking forward to meeting some of you because I know that you've travelled from across the territory to be here. So please feel free to come and say hi at some point. Before we jump into the housekeeping and some of the things about this wonderful symposium and conference, I'd like to welcome up here for the opening address. And one thing you should know is when I'm not hosting conferences and doing fun things like this, I also do a lot of work in the local music scene and MC those kind of gigs. So what I'd like is every person that I bring up to the stage, if you wouldn't mind just like making this sort of round of applause that'll like sound as if we've got a rock star in here. Like, I think you've got it in you. You all look like you're here to make a lot of noise, which I'm thrilled about. So everyone that I bring up, I want you to go absolutely insane for, so that everyone at this hotel freaks out a little bit, okay? I think, yeah, you guys can handle that? Great. So would you go absolutely insane giving us the opening address, the Honourable Eva Lawlor MLA, Minister for Environment.
Well, what do I say? It's like, I can tell you, I haven't had a chance to celebrate winning my seat because you get straight back into it. So maybe that was the celebration, that I probably could have had a month ago now. Absolute pleasure to be here. And I too would like to acknowledge the Larrakia people on whose land we meet. And the other thing Amy didn't tell you is she does stand-up comedy. So I'm hoping you can expect some really good jokes today, Amy. Well, yeah, so I'll leave the jokes aside and leave them to Amy. But it is an absolute pleasure to be here. During COVID, we didn't have too many conferences. We didn't have those gatherings. So it is wonderful to actually take a moment to acknowledge just how lucky we are in the territory that we can all be here in a room this big and not have to wear face masks. I must say, when I'm on teleconferences and video conferences and you hear those muffled voices from down south and you see people with face masks on, it is actually quite a stark contrast to us in the territory. I won't speak for too long this morning. It is an amazing program. When I look at what you're going to be talking about over the next few days, I absolutely would love to be able to stay here and be a part of those conversations and learn lots, because there is so many exciting things that are happening in this space. I think for the federal government, for governments all across Australia, the time has come to really look hard and fast at what we're all doing, so local government as well, around the issue of waste. So it's great to see things on your program such as plastic avoidance, the end-of-life tyres in Australia, recycled content in roads. There's a lot of work I know that's being done by local companies in the territory around recycling. And I was just talking at the back about the story around the Chan building. For old top-end people, they'll know that Chan building, which was the old Block 8, it's the building that's across from Parliament House. It's the last of those old government buildings, I think, that were built in about the late 60s or 70s, I think late 60s, and it was always going to be demolished. And the original design of State Square was that you'd have this vista out across there. But It has been, put to use for years and years, and had the Northern Territory Government computer system in the basement. So whenever you talked about getting rid of it, was like, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to move the computer system? So that work has happened over the last couple of years, where the system was moved to Milner. So the whole data system that everybody relies on in, local government people here as well, for emails, all of those things. But the work that's happened on that building has been all about recycling. So the metal fascias, all of the concrete's being recycled. All the parts of that building that was stripped out, and for some of you who have been watching it, it did take time, but the end result is that a huge amount of those building materials, and I mean, I'd say upwards of 70–80% of those materials have been recycled. So a great story for, a building that's going down there, but also for the future around recycling. So those conversations that you're going to have around, end-of-life buildings and recycling, I think are really important. So great to see the panel discussion on the circular economy as well. As I said, lots of good things. The solar panel disposal, a very, very hot topic. No pun intended around that, Amy. I'm not trying to steal your jokes. But absolutely the businesses of the future around those things, such as recycling solar panels and tyres. And I think I had some conversations yesterday about just how little and the scope of our recycling is. We have such a small population, so how some of those solutions need to look at that. At the moment, as we all know, a lot of our waste gets trucked interstate, trucked to South Australia, trucked to Victoria, particularly tyres, some of our plastics and things like that. So some of the conversations I know that you'll have will be some really ones that will need to have some quite difficult solutions around how we can make a business viable around that as well. But I've got a prepared speech, so I will do the good people who wrote it justice and read and, as I said, ad lib as well. But as we're all aware, government, industries and communities across the world are looking at ways to reduce waste that goes into landfill, to minimise the impact on the environment and to find ways to reuse and recycle materials. Nothing surprising in that. This symposium provides an opportunity to share our collective expertise, foster collaboration and develop innovative approaches to that. I'm absolutely committed to collaborating and working across the levels of government. One of the reasons I can't stay today is I've got to go and talk on radio about the Northern Territory's slice of the share of federal budget. And I am a firm believer that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. I'll be talking about the positive things that have come out of the federal budget, and the same with our work with local government. I'm always happy to have conversations to work with local government. I think when you point fingers and when you start to look for play the blame game, it doesn't work. I'm in a fortunate position as a local member. I have a great council in Palmerston, and we've been able to work together to find a number of solutions around small things, but also commitments around the big picture. And the what's in it for me as a politician, I think the average Territorian has no idea or cares whether it's the federal government, the NT government, or the council that is fixing an issue that they have. And so I'm more than happy to commit to always work with local government around finding solutions, around delivering projects, to, as I said, for the betterment of the Territory, because that's what it's about. It's about Territorians benefiting from us who are in positions that can actually have influence around people's lives. So last year, the National Waste Policy was at the forefront of discussions, and those Environment Ministers' meetings, I think, were some of the most interesting ones that I've attended. In the last 12 months, the National Waste Policy Action Plan has been endorsed by Environment Ministers, and this provides a national roadmap to implementing the waste policy over the next 5 to 10 years. Additionally, the COAG collectively agreed to ban the export of tyres, glass, plastics and paper, including cardboard, from Australia. And I know you would be all well aware of when that made national news. The action plan outlines 7 ambitious waste targets, 21 strategies and nearly 80 actions. The action plan is designed to ensure that Australia reduces its waste generation by 10% per person by 2030. By 2030, 80% of all waste will be recovered, reused or recycled, and the amount of organic waste going to landfill will be reduced by 50%. We will also phase out unnecessary plastics by 2025, and some states are doing better than others in that. To achieve this, all levels of government, industry and the community must work together collaboratively and cooperatively. There are challenges to achieving these targets, but there is also clear opportunities for our environment and the economy. And when I walked around the room and spoke to people from our regional councils, absolutely I can understand, and I think all of us understand just how difficult it is in our remote communities when you talk about recycling waste. The National Waste Action Plan is underpinned by the need for Australia to more comprehensively develop a circular economy, which fundamentally means a change in the way that we look at waste. The idea of a circular economy is to avoid the waste in the first place and increase the use and demand for recycled products, and thus providing opportunities around a range of industries such as building materials, furniture and clothing. And again, we were having conversations yesterday about mattresses and how we recycle. Our waste in the Territory represents about 1% of Australia's waste, which is around 67 million tonnes. Although the Territory waste generation is relatively small, we all need to do our bit to meet the challenge of reducing Australia's waste. The Northern Territory Government sees the National Waste Action Plan as an opportunity and is committed to building the Territory's waste and recycling sector in partnership, as I said, with industry as well, not just government agencies and communities, but industry needs to be a part of that too. The Northern Territory Government has committed to a number of initiatives that align closely with the National Waste Action Plan, including reforms to our container deposit scheme to reduce the regulatory and administrative burden of the scheme. So we did a review, I think it was 2 years ago now, of the container deposit scheme and putting in those actions from that review. And I think all of us in this room that have had bits to do with recycling over the years can be very proud of the work that we've done, what Territorians do around container deposit scheme. It is a great success story for the Territory when you think some states are only just moving in that direction now. Electronic tracking of waste moving within, into and out of the Territory, and investigation of waste recycling opportunities in the Territory, including the reuse of various materials in our construction and road projects. And I know that's on your agenda. But standing here today, I'm giving a commitment to develop the strategy to reduce waste in the Territory. So I know it's been talked for a while, but our government is committed to developing a reducing waste strategy, and Leonie Cooper is speaking after me today. She will go into more details about how we can do that, but we want everybody to be a part of that strategy. It needs to be not just a document that sits on shelves, but has some really key actions around what we can all do to reduce waste in the Territory. And I think that's an expectation of the community that we do that. We have those targets. If we have those national targets, we do need to have a strategy to be able to, it's a bit of a cliched word, but to map that, to roadmap that. So if that's the national targets, how do we design down, deliver up to achieve those as a Territory? So that reducing waste strategy, we need to be all part of that and to have those conversations to make sure it is achievable. As I said, it isn't just a strategy that sits on the shelf. I'm a firm believer in conversations, to getting out and talking to people and not coming up with cookie cutter, and I call them cookie cutter models, things that may work in Darwin or might work in Alice Springs, but won't work necessarily in Tennant Creek, Katherine or Borroloola or Kalkaringi. That's what's unique about the Territory. We love the Territory, we love our remoteness, but how can we come up then with a strategy that is something that all local government, all local members as well, but communities and industry can own across the Territory and feel that they can work towards achieving those targets. So I encourage you to have those opportunities, those discussions today. I'm sure somebody good at that back table, it seems to be where the government people are sitting up the back, will take some very clear notes for me as a minister, but also for us when we're talking about the strategy. We have probably the best brains in this room around what we need to do around recycling, around waste in the Territory. So how do we capture those ideas to form part of our strategy? I think that's important work that we can do over the next few days. So all of you have the opportunity to learn, to share ideas, but from a government's perspective, it is also the opportunity to pick brains, to think about where we can push the envelope, where we can go into the future when we develop our reducing waste strategy. Probably need to come up with a better name as well there, Leonie, around that one. But thank you very much for inviting me to the opening. I hope your symposium, you get something out of it. I mean, as you know, my past life was a teacher, and when you have a room this big, you'll have people who are here and you'll have people who are there and people who want different parts out of this symposium. A good teacher would have you in small groups and doing little activities, and hopefully you have those opportunities where you can get together with like-minded people, share ideas, and sometimes I know that happens over at the end of the day at the bar, but you have those opportunities to get what you want out of this symposium as well, that it isn't just a talk fest, that you see some results from it. So all the very best. Enjoy the symposium. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy lives to come to Darwin, for some of you who have come from Bush, but all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opening address, Minister.